Hey guys, so today's video is about Ethan and Trisha and that whole thing. I feel like I haven't updated it in a really long time, so here it is. So today's video is very kindly sponsored by Raycon, who have been sponsoring my channel for a while, and I love them, you love them, we both love them. But if you want 15% off your new favorite earbuds, you can go on buyraycon.com/Angelika Oles, and that will give you 15% off already very affordable earbuds. I don't know if you guys know this, but I know this. I've been going to the gym lately. I started as a New Year's resolution in literally the beginning of the year. I think it was like January 3rd. I was like, I'm going to start going to the gym. And I've been going ever since. And guess what you need when you go to the gym? You need some good earbuds that don't fall out of your ears. Because the worst thing that you can find is when you're on the treadmill and you're in your groove and you're walking and suddenly they're falling, they're getting crushed, you're losing them. But guess what? These do not fall out of your ears because they fit perfectly. You have multiple different rubber tips so you can fit them perfectly into your ears and they will not fall out. I've done shake tests, I've been on the treadmill, they just do not fall out. It's amazing. I listen to music, podcasts, audiobooks. It all sounds great. I use it on the treadmill. I use it when I'm doing anything else in the gym. It overpowers the noises of the gym so I can focus on just what I'm doing, and it's amazing. So if you have any New Year's resolutions like going to the gym, going on walks, anything like that, I just think Raycons are like a great addition to your New Year's resolution. The everyday earbuds look, feel, and sound even better than before. I just feel like the design is amazing, and they're just so, I can't believe just how affordable they are for what you get. They're basically half the price of any other premium brand, but they sound amazing. They have these optimized gel tips that I mentioned to you guys, and they make sure that they just fit so well in your ear. So one, they don't fall out. Two, you get optimum sound straight into your ears. Raycons have a 32-hour battery life, obviously with the case, and then you get 8 hours of continuous playtime. So 8 hours is literally a whole day of work. I just think it's amazing that you can basically get through a whole shift of work on one charge. So it's no wonder that they have 30,000 5-star reviews, and I'm one of them, and you can be one of them too if you try them out. So you can go on buyraycon.com/Angelika Oles and you'll get 15% off. So you can join me with gym, walks, or anything else that you need to do that you want to disconnect yourself from. Let's get back into the tea. We had a few updates. Obviously, if you guys don't know the history, it's pretty extensive. Obviously, Trish and Ethan had Frenemies, which was a podcast they did where they started out as enemies and then became friends. That was like the whole concept, aka Frenemies. They actually didn't like each other and Ethan kept on calling Trisha out. There was even that controversial video that Ethan did where he was doing Instagram versus reality and he put Trish in there and called them it was like a whale, or called them a corpse, I believe it was. I think he called Tana a whale, but he called Trish a corpse. And I remember Trish like heavily went hard on Ethan for, I guess, talking that way about women just in general. So that was like the whole, thing. They met up then. Ethan kind of called Trish out for something. Trish called out Ethan and they became, I guess, friends. They like filmed a few podcasts for the H3 podcast and they started Frenemies together, which obviously came to an end because they got into a huge argument over the 5%. If you guys don't know, 5%. Trish was being paid 5% less than Ethan because Ethan was using the 5% to cover production costs, which I think is more than valid. I think their salary should have been paid out after all the expenses, so she shouldn't really be concerned about how much went towards production. She should just be concerned about getting her cut after costs are deducted, if that makes sense. But anyway, Trisha's sister then went on TikTok and posted those few really weird TikToks about like, Ethan is taking the 5% but can't even pay when we go to Disney World and Disneyland or whatever the Disney was. It was just a mess. So anyway, I feel like since then Trish hasn't been in a lot of drama like since then because they're trying to move away from drama. Also, they're pregnant, so I guess it's better for pregnancy to not be in drama because it causes a lot of stress. But I feel like a lot of people still kind of were hoping that Frenemies would make a comeback, but I feel like with everything that Trish has done, like all the name calling, all of the sabotaging of the podcast, and then calling out the employees, I feel like when Trish started going for the employees, it really just became a whole different ball game because they didn't deserve to be called out like that. So I just feel like when you drag employees into it and talk about their work ethic when they haven't been employed by you, I feel like it just adds a certain level of, to the whole thing. But anyway, recently there was this tweet that people put out being like, let's me find it. Why are all podcasts two best friends? I want a podcast that's two sworn enemies, just two bitches that absolutely hate each other. And I think that would actually be pretty funny. I feel like a lot of people focus on obviously like besties and all of that stuff. And Ethan Klein actually quote tweeted that with a sad face because obviously Frenemies was basically that, except they were enemies that became friends, but they still argued as if they were enemies. Like we had, I think, 3 walkouts from Trish before the final, no, including the final walkout. I think we had 3 walkouts and they were all to do with Domino's Pizza as well, which like that's a cursed There's a cursed situation. People's responses were this, this picture of the 3 walkouts, which I think is funny that 2 of them are in the exact same costume, essentially. Then we have someone saying, I still hope Frenemies will come back, even if it takes years. I just want both sides to be family again. And then I actually found this screenshot where someone said, why are all podcasts 2 best friends? I want a podcast that's 2 sworn enemies, just 2 that absolutely hate each other. Why did I just read that out again? And someone responded to that and said, at Keemstar, at H3 Productions, which if you don't know, Ethan and Keem have been going at it for years, literally. They had literally had that content nuke thing where Ethan was exposing Keem and then Keem started exposing Ethan. And then I remember, I think it was Susan or someone at YouTube got heavily involved and basically just told him to take the videos down because it just wasn't a good look for the whole brand. Like, they were going for each other's sponsors. People stopped sponsoring people. Like, it was a lot, and I feel like it would have caused another apocalypse if it wasn't stopped. So I'm actually kind of glad that it was stopped because I just didn't feel like it was going too far. And then Keem responded and said he would never. And like, look, personally, I'm not a huge fan of Keem. That's a personal choice. But are Ethan and Keem sworn enemies? I would say so. And would that be a pretty entertaining podcast? I would say so. I just don't think Ethan would be willing to give a platform to Keemstar after everything that's been said and done. Like, I feel like this has now gone too far, and I just feel like Ethan wouldn't let it happen, but I do think it would be quite entertaining in a really weird way. But once again, this is not me showing support towards Keemstar. Don't get it twisted. I don't consume that man's content. I don't know what he does, but if we're talking about 2 enemies on YouTube, those are 2 enemies that I could name. I don't think I know many YouTubers who are like enemies. I thought there are people that like go against each other, like I'd say recently Tana Mojo and James Charles, but it's very one-sided because James doesn't say anything about Tana. I guess like Trish and Jeffree and Shane, but even then, like Trish flip-flops about what they think about Jeffree and Shane, and then we have Trish and David Dobrik, but I don't know how many like actual sworn enemies there are. Me and Gabby Hanna, that would be a podcast and a half. Gabby, let me know if you want to do a podcast called, I don't know what we call it, but I'd say like there aren't many like sworn enemies except for Ethan and Keem. Like, that's pretty like personal. Like, it's going to that point where it's like personal, like they really hate each other. So I think it'd be quite interesting. But then if you guys remember, Ethan is being sued by Ryan Kavanaugh, like the guy behind like Triller and all those brands. If you guys don't remember, when Jake Paul had that fight, one of his fights, I do not care about Jake Paul, but there was a fight that he had that Ethan reacted to on his podcast. I believe it was the After Dark podcast, and he showed a few clips of it, and he was just like reacting to it the way you would, and it was already after the fight had gone live. Like, it, people had already, whoever wanted to pay for it already had paid for it. Like, at that point, it's a free-for-all, just, Anyway, so then they got sued. I believe they got a copyright claim or a copyright strike, and then they got sued. Also, since then, Ethan has been going pretty hard at Ryan, like comparing him to different not-so-great people in Hollywood and, like, making a few jokes about him, and people then, like, Ethan's fans are taking it upon themselves to, like, create forums about Ryan and go hard at him, which, like, at that point, like, it's not really defamation. It's not really anything to be sued about. And actually, a person that is covering the lawsuits really, really well, like always, is Emily D. Baker. Obviously, I watch her stuff on everything, like, all the lawsuits coming out. I watched her coverage of Tati. I watch her other coverages that aren't to do with YouTube. I think she does a great job, obviously, because she was a district attorney. She knows everything about the law. Everything is a bit far. I'm sure she knows 99% of the stuff. So she covers these things pretty well. So you guys want, pretty well was like a humble, just like, pretty well. She does it really well. And she does these live streams. They're very fun to watch. It's like a communal thing where everyone just like gets involved. I personally love it. But she put up on screen a part of the lawsuit where Ethan actually drags Trisha Paytas, and you're like, oh my god, isn't that a bit petty? Like, why would he drag Trish? And it's because Ryan mentioned Trish in the lawsuit. So in one of the filings, Ryan basically was like, Ethan is known to like basically beef YouTubers. Like, he made everyone turn against Trisha and made everyone attack Trisha, and he's doing the same thing to me. Like, he tried to use it as like a little bit of a comparison thing, which I don't think it applies, but sure. And Ethan filed his own filing saying, in paragraph 53 of the complaint, Kavanaugh refers to my public dispute with Trisha Paytas. While I do not believe my dispute with Paytas is relevant to the present action, I would like to clarify the record. Should the court believe it is relevant, Paytas is an extremely controversial figure on the internet and has received a tremendous amount of criticism on the internet for insensitive behaviour and statements. For a period of time, Paytas was my co-host for a podcast series entitled Frenemies. During some Frenemies episodes, Paytas would lash out at me, my wife, and the crew of the podcast. When our friendship fell apart, Paytas made countless videos and social media posts that continued with these attacks. When I sought to clarify the record, Paytas released even more videos and social media posts claiming she was a victim of online harassment. Given Paytas' attacks, I became critical of her and discussed 1. Her demonstrably false allegations of SA against her now deceased high school teacher. 2. Her statement that she bribed a rabbi to confirm her to Judaism. 3. claiming to be a Wiccan a few weeks after claiming to have converted to Judaism. 4, how she has minimized the LGBTQ community despite claiming to be non-binary. 5, how she has minimized those with mental illness despite self-diagnosing herself with mental illness. 6, how she claimed I was not a real Jew and degraded me for suffering from Tourette's syndrome. And 7, how she fetishizes various minority groups. A true and correct copy of the June 9th, 2021 podcast episode entitled Regarding Quitting Frenemies, available online at link. Great self-promo, is on the hard drive and is incorporated herein as Exhibit 136. I declare under penalty of perjury that the contents of this declaration are true and correct. Executed this 25th day of February 2022 in Los Angeles, California. Signed by Ethan Klein. Wow. Wow. This is a bit petty. This is a bit of drama. I think it's kind of crazy. So he mentions in the lawsuit, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, isn't it petty? But I guess because it was included in the lawsuit, it's not like he's talking about this publicly. He's just literally mentioning the fact that, like, it was mentioned in the lawsuit by Ryan, he has to respond because it's part of a lawsuit. Like, if he doesn't respond, it could be used against him. I completely agree with, like, just mentioning it if Ryan is the one that started it. But another thing, they were doing an After Dark podcast, and you guys remember when the Jeffree Star skincare launch party happened, where, like, Shane and Jeffree were there, and they asked Jeffree, have you and Shane been friends this whole time? Because there were some rumours that you guys, like, fell apart, you know, when all the drama went down. And Jeffree was like, no, absolutely, like, we've been best friends since, like, we've had each other's backs the whole time. And Ethan is reacting to this clip and he goes, well, that is not what Trisha said. Trish told me that, like, after the pilot dropped, Shane was like, I need to get rid of this man. Like, I need to get rid of Jeffree. He's, like, evil. And then Dan, in the background, goes, yeah, but is Trish a reliable source? And the whole podcast episode, Dan was, like, throwing in little jabs at Trish. And I thought it was very, like, brave, considering if Trish focuses on someone, they, like, really hyper-focus on someone, and it becomes, you know, borderline harassment sometimes. So it was very brave. But yeah, like, is Trish a reliable source of information? Ethan said that Trish had mentioned this on the podcast, like, way before they fell out, like, on the Frenemies podcast. So I guess that adds a bit of, like, reliability to it, because it's not like, you know, they were, like, friends at the time, you know, reliable source. But Trish has accused many people of different things, you know, harassed people for different things. Is Trish a reliable source of information when it comes to, like, what Jeffree and Shane are talking about, or what Charli D'Amelio is doing? Like, at this point, Trish has dragged so many people for literally the dumbest reasons that I'm just like, you know, I'm gonna need a bit more proof of that. Then we have Trish Paytas clapping back at criticism. Trish posted this TikTok about Moses because everyone accused Moses of being her assistant, like a personal assistant, and Trish basically made a joke about him being a personal assistant and then a future nanny. But also, just in general, Trish has been mentioning all the criticism that they've been getting during the pregnancy, and I think Trish is in for a huge shock and surprise when they realize just how brutal the mum community can be. I feel like any mums on the internet are dragged through the mud for any decision that anyone doesn't agree with. Like, whatever you choose to do with your kid that isn't abusive, there's going to be people out there calling you a horrible person over it. And I feel like the mum community sometimes, it really, like, I've watched enough new mums talk about this to feel like I'm an expert on the topic, if I haven't been through it. I feel like some good examples of this are Royal Beauty Christie and recently Samantha Ravindal. They've both talked about how much criticism you get as a new mum on the internet and how much people just want to tear you down for every decision you make as a parent. And I feel like Trish is in for a surprise because so far, like, yeah, Trish has been dragged, but I don't think she's been dragged the way these mums have been dragged. And Trish is just now getting, like, a taste of it, of them being like, well, you ate this and that is actually going to cause your kids to be, and it's just like, I can already see it. I think Trish is already seeing it. It's coming in as a big shock and surprise. Trish has also posted this TikTok about David Dobrik, and crazy. People are not responding the way I think Trish thought they were going to respond. So Trish is basically blaming her whole cancellation on David Dobrik. And people are like, no, we cancelled you for many other reasons other than just David Dobrik. Like, you've done a lot of You've done a lot that would constitute getting cancelled, and it has nothing to do with David Dobrik at this point. So I don't think that's the response that they were expecting, but here it is. Anyway, that'll be it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, comment down below, anything to comment down below, and subscribe because I post videos every time something happens. So hit that bell. You'll be notified when that's happening. Social media links, any of the links in the description. I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.